helps me at least going into AGDQ.
Yeah, because
Like
I
with
was
the
going to
map
ask you
set.
about that. I mean, Super Metroid traditionally in the GDQs, we've got the Zosts come to mind, the
Yeah,
Ivans
really
come to
big
mind, the
game.
Garrisons come to mind. So, what is there? Maybe we'll get into this in a little bit when we talk
Hmm.
specifically about HDQ. But is there any sort of nerves as a result of it being your first GDQ, or is it I've done a few other smaller events now. I think I'm going to be all right.
I think there's always going to be a little bit of nerves, but I think I'll get over it.
Sounds good.
Nice.
I'll get over it. There you go. In the moment,
I
you'll be
like the
there.
poker face. I like it.
Yeah. Demolix, you get a chance
I,
to watch any of this?
it's funny you mention it. I've seen it. Like I've stopped by because I see my follower page, whatever, and I click on it,
Hmm.
and I've seen it just briefly, but I didn't know what it was about. I think it's a pretty good idea. Like I have had a chance to be in like some I don't know like bigger streams, situations with races. I did the showcase race a while back on the
Sure.
GDQ channel, and then Mega Man X Relay. And there are nerves, so I think it's a good way to get rid of those. But you'll never get rid of all the nerves,
Sure.
like
That's what keeps you
because
going,
it's all
right?
about it's all about wanting to do well in front of a lot of people. It's not really
Hmm.
about being in front of a lot of people, but
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for people just to try it out and see. I think for a lot of people, the issue is that if you get thrown into the GDQ as your first marathon, I guess you don't really know what to expect as far as pressure is concerned, or you don't really know what your commentary is going to be like, or it's just an opportunity to refine some of that so that you can
Yeah.
have a better pitch in the future. And I think it's a cool concept that even for some of these other online marathons aside from Scrubathon, these online marathons can be hard to get into these days with so many people playing the popular games. If you're playing like a Super Metroid or a Mega Man X, just the amount of people who could offer that game to a marathon at any given point. You're talking maybe close to 10 for some of the popular games out there. 10 people could be offering the same game. So just giving other people a chance to jump in and try something new.
Yeah.
And also shout outs to Elmagoose or Elmagus. I like to say Elmagus, but every time I hear somebody else say it, it's Elmagoose. So I don't know, you'll
I
prove me
assume it was
wrong,
El
but
Vegas. I
yeah,
assumed just
we all
straight
got
up.
different ways to say it, but no matter how you say it, it's a cool concept and it's appreciated. So it's good to see that this idea is continued.
when I
And
tell you what, like with the you're saying it's a lot of smaller runners. That's a really great thing too, because there's a lot of really good channels out there on Twitch, and they're kind of hard to find actually, unless you really really go searching for them. And something like that's good for watching and finding new people to watch. So
yeah, and I guess another thing too that I like is from what I've seen anyway of day one, there were a lot of races that traditionally I think if you put them in like a GDQ setting, for instance, they wouldn't have worked. I don't think they would have worked. I think it's fair to say. But this seemed more interested in just putting more runners out there than worrying about can we get away with doing a two-player Chrono Trigger race or a three-player Soul Blazer race or games that are maybe not as traditionally thought of as race games, that kind of thing. So it's cool. It's cool. I like what they're doing. I encourage you guys to check it out there. The link is on the bottom of the stream, but it won't be for long because I'm about to switch to our next topic. So memorize it or hurry up, copy paste it. Yeah, I don't know.
Megas,
Uh,
Megas, Megas.
there we go. But let's talk about you guys specifically, our guests here. We got a little bit of a double feature interview here, and a lot of races to talk about because you guys are involved in some of the big HDQ ones. Why don't we just go ahead and start? We'll start with Epic here. What are your races that you're involved in, and maybe give us a little bit of a preview? What can we expect from
Um,
you?
I'm gonna be doing the Super Metroid 100%, which was kind of like it was my first speedrun category.
Hmm.
Um, and then I didn't even know this until today, but I guess I'm doing this Soten
We didn't know
race.
that.
Oh, you didn't know until you were on the show. We just like, yeah, okay.
Because last I
You've
heard,
been promoted.
I was like dropped from the race or
Oh,
not
okay. Well,
accepted, but
maybe that is. I don't know. On the schedule, your name's still there, so I'm
yeah.
gonna hold him to it. I'm gonna fight for you there. But you've been playing Super Metroid a long time now too. How long has it been?
I played since I was a kid, but speedrunning, I've been doing it since I think January of 2012.
Okay.
Like after I saw my first AGDQ. So
seems to be a common theme that people will pick up Super Metroid after a GDQ. I mean, I was just looking at the stats earlier today, and something like 220 people have times in any percent now
Yeah,
on the
Oh,
leaderboards.
God.
It's just, and 160 of them have under an hour in any percent.
Wow.
That's crazy to me that that many people have cut the
yeah,
hour. But
pretty awesome.
yeah, so your Super Metroid race, this is 100%. I don't think we had a 100% race in a GDQ.
I don't know, not a race. I know there've been runs, of course, but
Hmm.
I don't think there's been a race yet.
So this will be kind of a different take on the Super Metroid race.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're racing Sweetnum. Now, I gotta put a warning out there. I'm gonna ask you to give me reasons why you think you're gonna win it, but I have to point out that last week we had Crispy on our show for Yoshi's Island, and he did a nice little trash talk bid for us there. He gave us a couple sentences, and then MT was in the chat and heard it, and I think he got offended and took it personal because MT then beat Crispy's time earlier this week. He beat him, so be careful what you say here. But what do you think about your chances of winning the race? Are you playing against Sweetnum, whose time is pretty close to yours, actually, I think.
I think I just have more experience, so that might, or doing 100%, so that might give me the edge. Our times are really close. He actually is ahead of me right now, according to Deer Tier, by 27 seconds. But yeah, once I get some practice in, hopefully I can get my PB down by then. So
Now,
Now that finals are out of the way, you're
yeah,
in.
there
Yeah,
you go. You got the
definitely.
grind session. Yeah, you got time. Uh, what scares you the most out of like the 100% run?
Let me see. Missing an item, of course.
Missing it. You get to the end and find out you're at 99.
Yeah, that dreadful 99 could always happen, but I think if you grind it out enough, then you're just the muscle memory will get every item for you.
Now I've got to ask, when it was kind of an interesting situation because Super Metroid, let's face it, Super Metroid's always going to be in a GDQ. It's too big
Yeah.
of a draw. It's too big of honestly a moneymaker. If nothing else, save kill the animals. So it's like we'll get anyone in here. So I know you guys you offered originally 100%. Sweetnum actually offered 100% map. Now, I want you to defend your category real quick and say why Mike made the right decision going with 100% instead of 100% map. Tell us a little bit about that comparison.
Well, map is very like, I don't know, it's very under, I don't know how to say this.
I feel like arbitrary is a good word, but
It's a little arbitrary.
I mean,
There hasn't
it's
been
kind of
a
inspired
lot of
by
time put into it.
it's kind of inspired by the Castlevania runs, right? Like that's the reason that people are or have played it in the past is that they kind of there isn't really a tracker of the
Yeah,
uh,
probably.
map completion, so it kind of just came about as a desire to kind of mimic that.
Yeah.
Now, how do you see yourself going for AGDQ? You know, the people, I always envy them. I'm always late in the marathon as well. They get their run on the first day or maybe the first run, and then they're done. They can just chill and have fun. How do you
Yeah.
see yourself spending your entire AGDQ with you having to wait till essentially the last day to do your run?
Well, even at SGDQ, I was just playing a lot of Soten because I had a chance to play doing the all bosses race, but I ended up not getting in. But I just grinded out a bunch of runs just because that's what I like to do. So
Sure.
I always hear like people that are really thankful that their run is day 1 or day 2 because then that
Yeah.
stress is gone. And if you have a later
that
run in
burden.
the marathon, you kind of feel obligated to sit and practice and practice and practice. So yeah, interesting. So Soten, I guess it's news to you, and maybe I don't know if it's for all I know, maybe my information's wrong here, but I saw your name on the schedule there. So assuming that you're in it, what do you think your chances are in Soten?
Let me. I thought I had the schedule up. I don't know who else. I think if Rom's in it, dude, there's no chance. He's just too good at the game.
The
Like,
anti-trash talk. I love it.
Yeah.
he can not play the game for 12 years and he would just still crush everyone. But I don't know. That game's not hard to learn, so practicing it won't be a big issue. But
And which category is it that you guys are running? Just
I think it's any percent.
oh god.
I thought I had the schedule. I need to pull that up.
I thought I had you. I want to say it was on the 6th, but
Unless there's another epic.
it could be. Who knows at this point?
This
I was going to point out to you too. I guess I never did this before the show, but I wanted to point out. I'm sure you know because you're probably eyeing it more than anybody. But Twitch.tv/epic, it's available.
It's
So
available.
it's
I did not know
it's
that.
not a channel. So if you
Not
want to
for
get in
long.
on that,
Is that not a thing?
I would
How is
recommend.
that a
I
thing?
figured it'd be like Epic Games, right? Like
Sure.
no, I went there and it's not a channel. So there you go. That's your
I
There's
need
your
to get
name
Rom.
change
I need to
up
get
there.
Rom Scout on that.
there you go.
Because last time, like, I won the name change contest, and like I couldn't change it to that, so I ended up giving my name change to Garrison.
Oh, okay.
Aw.
That's how that
How
happened.
sweet.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Well, I'll let you hold the thought on Soten. We can ask you about that later.
All right.
It's
Demolix,
news. It's news to everyone.
Demolix, you've got a pretty big race of your own here. Do you want to explain who you're up against and what's going on there?
Yeah, so we're doing Mega Man X 100%, and I think it's Caleb Hart 42, Bob and Emix, and the Herb Derp 88. And yeah, like it's pretty crazy. These guys are all really, 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 really good. Um,
And Caleb coming off of an SGDQ where he went back to back with wins in X and X2. You know, I kind of look back at that and think the Mega Man X race, the what if Tiki didn't miss the skip? What would have happened? Because I mean, he had that. As far as I'm concerned, he had that race.
oh yeah, it was absolutely
it was-
Tiki's. Tiki basically lost. He didn't hand the race to Caleb, but
He missed-
it was
he
his
missed-
to hand away.
He missed the free throw in the last minute of the quarter. So
Oh.
Well,
yeah.
and the thing about it is if you're like 20, 25 seconds ahead, you can do that skip so slow. Like it's not a hard trick.
Right.
It's just kind of difficult to do quickly, you know.
I think
So,
it was just an example of where fundamentals can get you sometimes where you just least expect them to, and it's just interesting to me like what would have happened if Tiki wins that and then the momentum is his and Caleb doesn't have that going into X2. Does he have a bad X2 then? But in any case, as it stands, he won both the X and X2 races. What do you think has to happen in order to beat him at the AGDQ Mega Man X race?
I just have to play well because honestly, like if you look at the past Mega Man X races, there's always been some fairly large mistakes. Like they end up being pretty close, but they're not really getting like really really good times. I mean, they're really good times as far as
Sure.
the worst runners versus the best runners, but it's still like a minute and a half off their PBs. Whereas these guys can go stream every night and get within 30 seconds. So I
Sure.
think it's just consistency.
Now, I gotta ask, and I know, and then this can be a question for both of you guys. I do think a lot of people have this mentality of I'm going to go to AGDQ and I'm going to get Twitch famous. Like this is going to happen. I think that's put a little more in the spotlight when it is a race, and you've got someone like a Caleb Hart that maybe there is this little mentality where if I can take down Caleb, all of a sudden everyone's going to know my name. You know, if I win the Super Metroid race, everyone's going to know my name. Is that, and you guys can be honest, we don't have a lot of viewers here, so don't let...
No pressure.
It's not going to get out there on the internet or anything. Is there anybody of you that thinks about, man, if I win this race, all of a sudden, in big lights, Demolix.
The marquee
Epically-
says, next AGDQ, it says featuring Demolix, featuring Epic.
I mean, Ivan received the title The Zost Destroyer. You build someone up and you got to take them down. Is that going through either of your heads at all?
So let me say this. If I beat just Caleb in a 4-man race, I will be happy.
You take third out of 4 as long as Caleb is number 4.
That's all I need to do. That's all I need to do. And it's not really about that Twitch fame, which, whatever. That's a really cool thing. It's just about beating him, mainly because he got me into speedrunning. So it's kind of like
beating your
full
idol,
circle.
so to speak, or the person you look up to. You got to knock him down. Epic. What about you?
I've never had that mentality about being Twitch famous or anything. Yeah, it would be nice if I ever had sub or anything like that to make money off of it, but honestly, I really don't stream enough. Even if I got 1 million followers after AGDQ, they'd be like, "Hey, where's Epic? He's not streaming."
He's not streaming. There you go.
Don't
Like
pull
I
a
would,
CGN on us.
I always get caught up watching streams, and I'll practice while I'm watching, but I think that's the fun part for me is just watching more than streaming actually.
All right, so I want each of you to give me the pitch. Super Metroid. We usually get the any percent race, or we get some sort of any percent demonstration. Give me the pitch, the reason that the 100% Super Metroid race is going to be compelling, and give me the pitch that even though we just had X and X2 races at SGDQ, why is this AGDQ Mega Man X race the one to watch? Start with Epic for Super Metroid.
Um, well, for 100%, it hasn't been done in an AGDQ yet, or at least a race. So, and it's not a very common run. You see a lot more people doing the any percent, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in 100% that you don't normally see in that run. So, I think it's going
100%
to be
is an
really interesting.
incredibly sexy category to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of just movement in general. I think it's fun, and I would also add that just having two fresh GDQ faces, I think that's kind of a good argument too. And
Yeah.
Mega Man X is going to get a little bit of a similar argument there. Demolix, what do you think?
Well, there's a handful of new optimizations in Mega Man X, and not only is there a handful of new optimizations, but the X community is actually fairly large. Like it's been growing. When Caleb did his run and won at the last AGDQ, there was one person with a 35. Now there's five, and there's countless others with 36s that didn't exist before. So just the times are coming down. There's new optimizations, and there's 4 players. And quite honestly, me, Caleb, and Baba's PB is 1 second apart. So it should be really fun.
That's so close.
That's such a great preview of future GDQs, is that you're not having to make these kind of stretches to get to these 3 and 4-way races. Because I remember when I was doing my AGDQ Games Topic show, there was that, X1, X2, there's no way they're getting in. There's no way. We've done them so many times. And then you see it does get in, and you look at, wow, there's so many people who have just blown up this game, all this genuine competition for the X 100% record. It's exciting, and take your bets. It's anybody's game.
Well, hold on to take your bets just a minute. That'll be later in the show, but go ahead.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know what's crazy too is that so I see all the people that started playing the game when I started playing it, maybe like 8 or 9 months ago. And there's a new wave of players, so it makes you wonder, like in a year from now, how many more people are going to be there right at the top tier for MMX. So I guess that's kind of what makes it compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does seem like when it comes to speedrunning anyway, the popular games, they just keep getting more and more popular. You're not going to run away from that. So I was talking with Sicko earlier today, actually, he was talking about 70 Star and just how many people have times in 70 Star now. And I was kind of looking at Super Metroid the same way, where there was a time where I'm like, yeah, I'm top 20 in Super Metroid. Not anymore. Like, I'm lucky if I'm not top 3 digits or something, so.
It's amazing the weekly any percent Super Metroid race. It's common to see 8, 9 people cut the 50, and sub 50 used to be a legendary time not that long ago.
Yeah. So cool stuff, guys. I'm going to ask the chat to come up with some questions for you guys for the end of the show here, so we can maybe see it from the chat's perspective. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's get to some other topics that we have today in Real Talk. First one is, I think, the good news we were hoping for when we last brought this story to you. So there's been a lot of discussion on the forums with regards to the future of ESA, the European Speedster Assembly. It seems like there was kind of a question of ownership of ESA, whether it belonged to Ludendi or not, and there was some kind of additional drama surrounding that. But it does look like, for the most part, that has been resolved, and it looks like both parties pushing for ESA 2015 to happen. So based on that, I think this is pretty good news, right, Spike?
Yeah, last week it was, from my standpoint, especially when I talked about it, it was all doom and gloom. Everything's over. The world's coming to an end. No more ESA. And now it's all jubilation this week. I don't think anybody can have a bad response to this, seeing that somehow behind closed doors, and they didn't The most disgusting aspect, honestly, of last week, it felt like there was too much energy put into slandering one another and really making sure that it looked like the other person's fault. And this week, all of that baggage, it was all kept behind closed doors. And really, the only thing we got from them was just, we have decided that we are going to work together. We're going to work through our differences. ESA is going to be a thing, and that ESA is a success not because of the ESA committee, not because of Lou Dendy, but because of all of them combined that have come together to give us this great event the last few years. It's too important to the community. It's too important to, the Eastern Hemisphere to not get access to the ESA.
And I mean, it's fair to say that just by reading some of these posts here, I mean, obviously the resolution is there and it looks like ESA is moving forward, but it's fair to say that there are still kind of some things that are probably being held back as far as, from both sides, how they feel about the situation. But it does seem like they're holding back those thoughts with the idea that it's more important that ESA continues rather than getting everything they want out of it necessarily. So good news there. I'm trying to think if this results in just more posts in general like this. Not necessarily the accusatory side of it, but just
sure.
If there's other events going on that have similar situations.
You mean not this specific, not ESA,
no, not specific to ESA, but just
yeah.
I do think like what helped the situation more than anything was that this got thrown out there and it was given an opportunity to be looked at and criticized and questioned, because ultimately by doing that, I think the community got involved with it and said, hey, at the end of the day, we really just want this to continue. We want ESA to be a persisting event. And I think that kind of community desire propelled or maybe motivated a compromise in this case. So
yeah,
good stuff there.
It definitely looks a lot better than, last week, again, it looked as bad as it could be. And this week it catapulted above, not to point any fingers, but like what happened to Crystals for Life this year, is that both parties decided that they were going to get together and resolve this. And, I think it was a really slick move on their part, I guess, to use a word, for them to both post the same thing, saying we are in arms, we are standing together, and saying we know you all want ESA and we're going to make it happen. And we can't do this without the other person.
And I think it's fair to say that this is something that it's not specific to the European runners. Obviously having ESA is a big deal for them just because of the locality of it. It's very easy to get to compared to a GDQ, but there's a fair number of runners in the North American realm of speedrunning that would be interested in going to an ESA or have expressed interest in the past or have even gone. So I think this is it's cool that it's persisting. It's good that everybody seems to have wrapped up any last thoughts they had on it, and it seems like from here on out it's moving forward. But Epic Demolix, do you have any thoughts on that the ESA topic, or is that pretty much covered there?
I think it's pretty well covered. I wasn't even aware that anything like that was going on.
There you
But
go.
I'm glad they resolved it. So
Yeah.
I was mildly aware of the first post, and I thought it was kind of a shame, but it's good to see that apparently they had another post. So
Yeah, it's kind of been developing the last couple of days here, so good to see that there is kind of an agreed upon resolution at least, and we're not left feeling too sour about the whole situation. So
yeah.
For sure.
Good stuff. All right. Well, now it's time to place your bets. Now that I held you off a few minutes there, but leading up to AGDQ here, we think it might be a little fun to throw out some predictions, whether it's with regards to the results of races or just how the event itself is going to do. So I guess I'm going to throw some questions out there. Maybe Spike, if you want to throw out some of your own.
Sure.
But the first question I want to start with, we did this question last year. What do you think as far as AGDQ amount of money raised? AGDQ 2015, starting with the big one there. Are we going to hit 1 million again? Is anybody willing to say that we're going to hit 1 million again? Is anybody willing to say we're not going to hit 1 million? What do you think? Give me a number,
Okay.
Spike.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I should just give them. Okay, I'll put the arbitrary number. Well, it's not arbitrary. Okay, okay. Here's my best guess is
One
$1,200,000.
million two hundred thousand. Okay, one
I
And
was
point
I
gonna
will.
two.
say that. So
Oh, really? Okay, 1,200,001. Okay, so
Oh, we're going Price is Right rules now.
yeah, Price
Okay,
is Right.
okay.
No, okay. So here's the thing. People, I don't think it's likely, but people should not be shocked if we somehow don't get to a million. $1 million is a lot. And at some point, the GDQs, I don't think are going to quite build on it the way you think they are. And last year, there's really no reason we should have made it to a million. We were sitting there a mere 24 hours away from the end of the marathon. We had $500,000 raised, which is a lot of money, but that's half of a million.
Right.
And in the last 24 hours, all of a sudden you have Wind Waker, you have Cosmo there, who's not doing a run. You don't, not to knock any of our Demolixes, our Epically Epics, our Spike Vegetas of the world, but you don't have that just like huge name, probably the biggest being the Minecraft runners. To all of a sudden just say, bam, we're just going to roll in all this money. All of a sudden, we're going to roll in $100,000 in a few hours.
Well,
And you have to be within range of that to hit it during Ocarina.
I was going to say, it's fair to say that I think a reasonable argument was that the only reason that AGDQ hit a million was because they were so close to it at the end of the marathon that people just started pushing for it.
Right.
And if they weren't in that range, or if it wasn't even a chance, like a slim chance that they would have got there, I don't think it would have happened. But just by being close enough, I think that kind of motivated that last minute push. Epic, you said, were you the one that was suggesting 1.2 million, or was that Demolix who was?
that was me.
That was Epic. Okay, so you agree with Spike there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it could hit a million again. I wouldn't say it's gonna happen guaranteed, but I definitely think it could happen.
Uh, the other thing too to think about is these GDQs have traditionally doubled or tripled what they made in the previous years. That's fairly accurate?
Yeah, it's
So
it's either been doubled or tripled.
is anybody willing to say $3.3 million, or are we finally reaching a point of maybe that's a little unrealistic? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I say at least $2 million, and here's why.
Whoa.
Here's why. Popular media is starting to pick up on speedrunning, as well as these GDQ events, a lot more than they used to. And that's a big deal. Like, I never heard of AGDQ before last year. I just hopped on Twitch. Now I read about speedrunning all the time while looking through the sites that I've been looking through before. That's kind of interesting.
That's one of the problems I think that the GDQs have had in the past is that day one and day two, day three go by, and the viewer count is, maybe half of what it ends up being by day 4, 5, 6, 7. Simply because the word isn't out there. And now I think we've reached a point where the GDQs are such a staple that rather than people just finding out on day 4, they're going to know in advance, okay, my stream is going to be up and ready to go for the first run on day 1, instead of just stumbling upon the stream on day 4. It's an event that's popular enough now that the name is familiar to people. The word has been spread already, and there are a lot of people looking forward to them. So I think you have those arguments going for you there. I would agree with the notion that a million is still going to be challenging to reach, but I don't see it being unrealistic. I do think, Spike's point is kind of fair. Just that some of the, more popular speedrunning names aren't going to be doing runs necessarily. But I think you make up for that with, I think the Minecraft run, regardless of how well it goes as a speed run, I think that's going to raise a lot of money. So we'll see how that does. But that last day too, just the entire last day is filled with runs that are back to back, whether it's a race or just a well-known game. They're hitting really hard on the last day, so I think that's going to be a good push.
That's another thing you got is, again, we might be sitting there $400,000 or $500,000, even $600,000 going into the final day, and will you have that same kind of crazy push to go from, again, maybe you do jump on 2 million. I think one of the big X factors here is if you look in the, I'm not so familiar with the prizes thread, but the donation incentives thread, there is not a lot of stuff in there right now. And I don't know if that's just people being lazy, but that does raise money. That does make a difference. It's just constantly reminding people, hey, you want this extra content of some sort? throw in this money and we'll make it happen. And some of that, honestly, might be because, I don't know, there are races going on, so you don't have as many obvious incentives that you can do. There are a ton of races this year. But yeah, they're gonna have to start going around and prodding people and saying, "Hey, is there anything? Is there a cat you can save for $1 million? We need something
Right.
besides save kill the animals to raise money."
Well, and to be fair, save kill the animals. If that's, I'm assuming they're bringing that back, but this close to the end of the marathon this time, which I guess in the past they've had a tendency to put Super Metroid on earlier nights than the last night.
Sure.
So it is giving it its kind of almost its fullest potential to raise as much money as it could. And I think SGDQ, it accounted for something like 10% of the donations, uh, just between kill and
Yeah,
save. It was something like $100,000, right?
yeah, out of like 700,000. So yeah, it was well over 10%. It was pretty it was pretty stupid. It was a lot of money. So yeah, that by itself. I
Now,
apologize for stupid. That's not in a good way. A
it
good
was yeah, I got you. It's
Yeah, we in there. All
yeah,
right.
I knew what you meant. It's you meant it in a positive way.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the next obvious prediction question. I want Epic. I want your prediction for the Super Metroid race. Demolix, I want your prediction for the Mega Man X race. Tell me the order and how close it's going to be. Epic, go ahead.
Let's see. Super Metroid, I'm gonna
Here it
say
is. You can't not pick
I'm
yourself.
I'm coming on.
That's,
I'm coming on top.
there you
I
go.
have to. I
You
have
have to.
to.
You
I
can't
have
root
more
against
experience
yourself.
with the category, so
There you go. How close is it going? Is it going to be a close race all the way to the finish?
I can only pray it's a close race. Like that, the last year AGDQ, that was just so mind blowing. It was really insane. So I hope to replicate that.
Let me ask this then. I mean, as a runner, do you want it to be a close race, or do you want to have a comfortable lead
You
over
want
the
to
other
blow
guy
them out. What is
I
I
mean,
think
what's
it'd be really cool to have a really close race.
and just squeak out a win? That'd be.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. Actually, I think that would be a lot of fun.
So what
Demolix.
you're
Oh,
pitch so what you're pitching, Epic, is that if you're up a little too much, you might throw it away.
I'm gonna be watching for that. If you start to make some questionable
Ooh, I'm dropping
mistakes,
input.
I've always
on
wondered that
accident.
when are we gonna have some sort of point shavings in AGDQ matches?
a little bit
When's
of
the final-
rigging going on. Little borrow from the FGC and rig some of the races there. I don't know.
Hey, I'm still waiting for speedrunning for GDQs to have betting lines.
There you go.
I got Epic minus 30 seconds Metroid race.
There you go. Over under hour and 20. There you go.
There it is.
Demolix, what do you think? What's in your mind? How does it break down for NMX?
I like legitimately don't know. Like if I were to come out and say, "Oh, I'm gonna win," I couldn't be sincere about it. I think me or Bob and Emix has a pretty good chance of winning. I personally think Bobby Emix is a better player than me, but the times are just so optimized and there are so many small mistakes. It could go either way. And Caleb's been grinding it out lately too. So he could win. I don't know, but I'm gonna say Baba, me, Caleb, and then Herb.
Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, what would you, regardless of, whether or not you win the race, what is your personal goal as far as, is it anything but fourth, or do you even care, if you're just being in the race, is that good enough for you? Or what would satisfy you leaving
My
AGDQ?
absolute personal goal, and I'll say this, and they'll hear it sometime, I'm sure, is to beat Caleb and Herb.
There you go.
That's it. Really beat Caleb, but beating Herb would be nice too. You know what? Baba's a good friend of mine. He can beat me. It's cool.
There you go. Okay. I like that. That's good.
Got a little nice guy in you.
All right, Spike, did you want to throw out a prediction question?
Yeah,
here?
sure. Okay, so one of my favorite races, I feel like the room is going to be packed for this race. It is the one and only Carl Swaggin versus Dram 55 in Kaizo Mario World.
That should be really good, yeah.
Now, a lot of us, I don't know how familiar we are with the speedruns of Kaizo Mario World, but we're probably, if you've been on the internet, you're pretty familiar with the game and how frustrating it is. Those two absolute juggernauts of personalities, of beloved members of the community, who's coming out on top there?
Well, I'll tell you from my unprofessional eye what I have to say about this is you don't bet against Dram in Super Mario World. He's shown too many times at GDQs that when it comes to a marathon experience, he can deliver something that's just as good as PBs, if not world records. That any percent run that he did back in 2013, I think it was, where he wasn't even really expected to do it. It kind of popped up as a donation incentive. And then on the spot, he got a 10:38, which at the time, I mean, this was before Cloud was found.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a run that's, 10 seconds off of what was the record at the time. And he just did that on a whim. I think it's hard to root against or to bet against him. But the thing that I question the most about this is how much practice has Carl been putting in, because Carl's not really known for streaming that frequently. We don't get to peek at his gameplay that often. So I've seen him do it a few times, but this is months ago at this point, and we haven't really seen what he's up to these days. So I would be curious to see if it's a close race. And I don't know. If Carl wins it, it's likely because he's got some sort of secret visual cues he's holding on to, or not. There's. Sure. I question, if he wins, I wonder what the secret is. But I do think it'll be a fun race regardless.
Yeah. They're both absolute showmen, so yeah, it's going to be a good show regardless. I criticized Dram a little bit last year, feeling like he was going easy on LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
No Star World. It felt like it was, I might miss this here and there. I'm not saying he threw it. I'm not saying he's going epic on us. But I'm just saying it felt like it was pretty casual for him.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's either way, Dram, probably your smart bet for the winner, but don't count out Carl.
I can't root against Carl though, because the 96 exit co-op partner, back at AGDQ 2013, we had this one in the practice room. We just had this 96 exit co-op race. It was like 6 teams or something like that. And me and him were paired together. So if I root against him, if I bet against him, I don't know if he'll be my partner anymore in the future co-op races that clearly are going to happen. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things like my heart says Dram, but my brain says, or like one way or the other. It'll be fun. Maybe they can tie, and then I don't have to root against one or the other.
Now, the next question I got, the next prediction. All right. So, we could go into all these different races and predict all these different runners. I want to know from you guys, okay, what are some of the big races that jump out at me? We got Diddy Kong Racing involving runners like Tofool and Oxwis. We got Contra between DK28 and TMR. What else you got on here? You've got Gimmick, possibly. You got Goof Troop between The Cypher and Blecky. Super Castlevania 4, Donkey Kong Country 2. Legend of Zelda between Darkwing Duck and Lack Attack. There's the Mega Man X race, the Super Metroid race. There's so many races we're talking about here where it feels like these aren't just, there are a couple of good runners. These are like number 1 and 2 in the world, number 1, 2, and 3 in the world. These are some crazy. What is going to be the race that everyone walks away from and says, that was the one, that's going to stick with me forever? I can't believe how cool that race was. And again, there's a lot of options there, so.
I'm going to have to go with Castlevania 4.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good answer, actually. Do you want to explain that situation, or?
I just know it's been picking up a lot of steam. All these runners are so good. I'm a little sad DBX won't be there for that, but yeah. I'm really excited to see that race.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Castlevania 4, if you pick that, I think that's a good answer, just because going into AGDQ, you've already got this evolving storyline where you've got Furious Paul and Joe D'Amelio, I think, both in the race, if I'm not mistaken, going back and forth, swapping the record or threatening to swap the record. Then you've got the storyline of Hanage, who is one of the Japanese runners that we raised money for with JRTA. He's going to be flying over. And I'm curious to see just how he performs. If it's going to be interesting, some of these new factors that come into play with the GDQ that we've never seen before. What's the experience going to be like when Oxwis has to play day one? Diddy Kong Racing, is the jet lag going to be a big factor there, or is he, as he claims on the internet, can he get by with an hour of sleep, or whatever the case is? It'll be interesting for me to see specifically, I mean, obviously, I'm very interested in how the Japanese runners perform, but I'm curious to see how Hanage plays. If he's kind of the X factor in that Castlevania 4 race, where traditionally you might think, oh, it's all about Joe and Furious Paul, and then I think Just Defend, is he the fourth runner?
I believe so.
In that race too. So again, a possibility there. I think of potential upset. It's kind of a name that people aren't expecting to take the top spot there, but
it's the fourth spot is up for grabs.
Up for grabs. Oh, I've seen TMR streaming it too, right?
Yeah, it is.
He's still like fighting for that.
That's a really interesting storyline to me. Is like, again, building up to all these GDQs. How do you decide who's in the race? Because they're not going to do a 5, a 6,
Right.
a 16-way race.
I know at one point they were hinting at, or maybe the runners were pushing for it. I know they wanted a 6-way race. I don't know how you'd manage it, but
second stream.
There
That's
you go.
how.
That's-
Yeah,
there you go.
you want 8 people. You got to get the second stream going. Which that's
Future-
another topic.
future
for
tech, yeah.
18 more episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
whenever we feel like bringing up that topic, that's go ahead.
Demolix, what you got?
It's really hard to say what the best race will be. I haven't looked at the schedule too much, so I'm not sure what's all racing, but the best race is going to be the one that has like the hypest ending, right? It doesn't matter what game it is. Like that Super Metroid race wouldn't have been as good as it was last year if it didn't come down to smoke on the ground and just like navigating out to the ship. Taking one step past the ship in Super Metroid. So it's really hard to say because any game can be pretty hyped whenever it's that close. Like regardless of what's going on.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking SGDQ. I want to say 2012. This would have been still at Essentia's house, right? I'm trying to think. It must have been that GDQ. There was a Rygar race.
Oh, yeah.
Way back. And this is a game that I don't really have any fond memories of, or I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it or remember it. But for some reason, it's sticking in my head when you said that, and I think it's because that race must have been really close. Was it a close race? I hope I'm right. Like I picked the race, it's like a blowout now or something. But
sure,
I thought that was a close race, and that's why I remember it. But
sure, and like you said, regardless of whether it was close or not, again, going off of Demolix's point, when they are close, the viewers could care less what the game is. It could be Barney's hide and seek, but if that is within 6 frames of one another, all of a sudden this go, dude, did you see that Barney race? That was insane.
That's I had the most Oh, I had chills. I was so excited at how close the Barney race was.
Dude, I'm hyped for a Barney race now.
Yeah, now it's got to happen. Way to go, Spike. Way
I'll have to go practice some Barney, man.
to give us
Dude,
false
screw
promises.
MMX. That being said, Domolix, is MMX, can that be that game? I mean, that is one of the most optimized games out there in terms of speedrunning. And we're talking about 100%. You guys, like you said, there's no way there's ever been 3 PBs within a second of one another. Can that be that race?
It could, and the interesting thing about MMX, especially in like a pressure situation, is there's mistakes that you can make that can start costing a lot of time. So you can be ahead a lot, like Tiki, for example, and then you can make a small mistake, very tiny, that can cost you 20 to 30 seconds. And whenever you're talking about people that are probably going to land within a minute of their PBs, I mean, it can shift.
The percentages are there. Yeah.
Yeah, it could definitely be very exciting as long as everybody performs and doesn't perform in kind of the same fashion.
Yeah, I think Mega Man X or Mega Man games in general give you that opportunity where if everybody plays flawlessly, it's going to be a good race. Or if everybody's making mistakes, it's going to be a good race because it's going to be wild and unpredictable and places are going to shift. So yeah,
let's not forget, as cool as the Zost Ivan ending was, what does everyone still talk about last year? The baby Metroid skip from Krauser, the 3rd place finisher.
Right.
You would have thought all of a sudden it took Ivan and Zost screwing it up in order to get to that point, to have that storyline come out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, here was a trick that, these two guys in the lead were both able to, or not able to do, I guess. And then all of a sudden, Krauser, whose storyline had basically been, the last sentence had a period at the end and the writer had put the pen down, but suddenly gets this trick and you got to pick the pen back up and keep writing because he had a chance there. So, yeah.
Well, and to that point with MMX, I think there's a lot of moments like that are going to happen. I think you'll see people ahead and then behind, and then ahead and behind. And it's just going to, until we hit a certain point, it's just going to cycle. And that makes it a lot more interesting.
All right. Well, I'm seeing some more chat questions popping up. We're getting to the chat questions in just a minute, so hold on to them. Repaste them in just a second. But for now, we're going to look at a record of the week. And this week, it's a game we have never featured on our show, so that's exciting. What are we looking at here, Spike? What is our game, our record setter?
We have got I remember when this was kind of the breakout speed game of SGDQ 2011, Mirror's Edge. Obviously, it's a very appealing game to anybody watching out there. You're running. It's fast, first person. But as you can see here, the game has really developed quite a bit over the years. Not that I've kept up too much with the scene, but just as you can see, the very specific movement tech to it. I've heard before that actually when you see them kind of bouncing off of, for whatever reason, that gives you more speed. Doing these like weird little crouch jumps of sorts somehow gets you more speed. Really just an entertaining and in ways, and I'm not trying to be offensive with this, almost a little goofy run in ways to watch. And I think that really kind of encompasses speedrunning in general. Sometimes the fastest movement from point A to point B is not the most obvious one.
I want to know what this game would look like in a third-person perspective, because based on what I'm seeing in first person, you've got to be doing some ridiculous-looking jumps. I mean, he's like flailing the arms in front there, and it's a really interesting run. It's a game that I'm not too familiar with, so if I picked the wrong segments to highlight here, you can blame me. But
I don't think there's a wrong.
It's
segment.
pretty hard.
There's no wrong segment.
It's pretty hard not to notice. Yeah, just the pace of the game, if anything. Maybe I didn't pick the most technical elements of the run to showcase here, but you just see how fast you're moving, and it's a fun game to watch. It amuses me that it's apparently 33:41 is the time. I'm not too familiar with timing methods here for Mirror's Edge, but my understanding is it's something like load times are removed.
Yeah, and that's kind of your, hey, you know what? People are going to complain about load times, version differences to the end of time. PCs had it figured out forever. It's just the timer is paused when the game is loading, and everyone's on equal footing. It doesn't matter how strong your PC is compared to anybody else's. So yeah, it pauses it during load times.
So I think the time here, it was noted that with the load times, it was a 3610. So if you want to count it as like an RTA, that's the time you're getting there. But without those load times, 33:41. Interesting run. Yeah, it's a game that I'm looking forward to casually playing through at some point, and that kind of motivated some more interest on my part there. So
and that's one of those, we try to promote every record we have every week, but right there, that's 33 minutes 41 seconds of just pulse pounding movement action, just really exciting to watch. So definitely go and check that out.
It doesn't feel like there's a dead moment in that game. I noticed when I was looking through and trying to find segments to highlight, there's occasionally, you're waiting for a platform to show up or something, you're forced to sit still. But any opportunity you have to move, you're moving, and it's non-stop motion. So cool stuff.
Also, I do want to make one note, because if you're at AGDQ and you want the coolest Disney ride of your life, I guess that I'm not familiar with all these newfound technology, but there are goggles you can wear to where you can watch it through the perspective of those characters. And I remember Oven Donkey was doing that last AGDQ. He would play through it, and you were essentially just going through this Disney ride, going through the game at that speed, running up walls, taking these leaps of faith. That is the coolest thing I've ever experienced. So if you get the opportunity and you want to, take up all of Oven Donkey's time, do that.
I wonder what Mohawk and headphone jack would look like.
Ooh.
Wearing those. Get sick really fast. I don't know. All right, well, we're going to go to Glitch Please next, and I think this is a first. I'm not sure. This might be a second, but one of our very own hosts has contributed to this week's Glitch Please. Spike Vegeta, would you like to tell me what Spike Vegeta is doing in this Glitch Please segment?
Okay, so once again, big shout outs to my chat, everybody involved in the Spike Vegeta-thon. It was so much fun. There's me at like 2 a.m, tired as I can possibly be.
And this is day 5, by the way. I included
my game. I have really good luck with my games, my discs, and how clean they are. So the final boss, this is supposed to be here for like 3 seconds, and then it moves on to showing your characters. I eventually had to go find my other copy of the game and stick in my other copy of disc 4 to
Yeah,
get this darn thing
this fight just isn't loading, and you had to swap to another disc 4. There you go. There goes the swap.
Thankfully, it finally worked. Just say, okay.
Well, I don't know about thankfully now. Now, did you do something here when you put this disc in? Because I think you fixed the RNG against yourself.
Oh my god. So I don't know how this is possible. If any of you who have played Final Fantasy IX, it is like impossible to miss. Missing is the lowest percentage thing you could possibly hope for. Steiner has the big, powerful Excalibur 2. He's supposed to be doing 9999 damage here. The strategy involved, you need to kill off all 3 of the other characters, and Freya needs to jump to skip over a phase of the fight. Unfortunately, Steiner is missing himself in order to make
this. Doesn't kill himself off.
Now, you do have a backup here. You can still get, as long as he hits himself the second time, then it's going to work. It'll be fine. And what is going on?
That's got to be some of the worst luck I've ever seen. Back-to-back misses in Final Fantasy IX.
The fight's over. There's nothing I can do. I have to restart the fight. Grand Cross, that's its ultimate attack.
Grand Cross is Final Fantasy IX talk for game over, so...
Yeah, it's at the lowest level you are. Basically, this final fight is so sensitive to the strategy. If you don't get it right, if you have to end up going through stuff like Grand Cross, then the fight will die. So I say, okay, that's fine. We're going to restart it up. It took me like 20 minutes to get through that final boss because Steiner would not. We cut off the highlight there, but he wouldn't stop missing.
He just kept missing
2 more times at the end.
Yeah.
It would not happen.
I just love that this was, like this is day 5. You've been playing games nonstop for, what, close to like 30 hours or 40 hours at that point. I don't even know. You put in like a full week's
It was like
games.
15 games worth of, and I run generally really long games and badly, so that made it take long.
At that point, you're just like, let me go.
Steiner hit something. So
that's really.
That
funny.
was the perfect. Again, though, that was the perfect end of the Spike Vegetathon. That kind of slop, honestly, and that hilarity. I wouldn't have had it end any other way. So once again, thanks everyone for showing up. It was a lot of fun.
There you go. On that note, I want to remind everyone that if you have a blooper that you'd like to share on the show, if it happens during one of your streams and you highlight it, or you, I guess we're really good at getting like lurkers like to send us other people's highlights. We rarely get highlights where the runner themselves submitted the highlight. Like, I did this funny thing. It's usually somebody's like, I'm a stream viewer and I saw this, and I'm going to get it on the show. Whatever the case might be, whether you want your own highlight shown or you find someone else's, please send it to our inbox, thefinalsplit@gmail.com right there. And follow us on these other social media network site things. Particularly our YouTube, I wanted to point out again that we have uploaded all of our recent episodes. There were a few weeks where we went without uploading them, but we've caught up now. So we're all the way up to episode 29 is up there, and hopefully 30 will be up sometime this weekend, so you can watch this episode again. If you loved it that much the first time, you can watch it again. Let's get some Q&A going with the chat here as we try to as we tried to come on XSplit. There we go. As we try to wrap up the show.
I say he's been so good.
It's been holding up, but there it is. All right. Any weekend plans for you guys while we wait for some questions from the chat here? Epic or Demolic's got any streams going on? Any plans for the weekend?
I'm gonna try to get some runs done. Super Metroid. I did a stream a couple days ago where I was just going through the first half of the game, just practicing. So I might finish that up, but other than that, not too much.
Okay, Demolic's got anything going on?
Actually, I hit 2,000 followers yesterday, so as a special, I'll be playing Mega Man X 1 through 8.
Whoa, the whole gamut. Wow.
And to give you an idea, I've only ever beat 1, 2, and 3. I don't think I've played 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
At least you said 2 in there. I feel bad for anyone who I was looking at the Speedruns Live Mega Man X2 race, and they put on their little profile, which by the way, shout outs to them for putting a banner on the front page and advertising it, because I think that's
awesome.
That's really cool that they're trying to get more people involved. But when you click the banner and it gives it a little description, it says if you've never played X2 before, it should expect to take about 4 hours.
I don't buy it.
I don't either. I played it for
pretty low.
I played it for a solid 8 or 9 and gave up. So if you're joining the X2 race and you've never played before, You've heard it from me. I warned you.
I recommend dirty peeing. I recommend
Yeah.
some dirty practice. Bill, don't
I
make it
hope
a
you recommend
blind.
the dirty practice. I don't know about dirty peeing. That sounds. I don't like that term as much. But all right, we've got a lot of questions here. Turbo Dog wants to know. Maybe you'll understand the question better than I do. AGDQ Soten equals Chicagothon Soten.
Yeah, I get that. My
All right.
Chicagothon was supposed to be a all bosses run,
Okay.
and I ended up soft blocking going into the second castle, so I didn't actually finish that. So hopefully
no.
that won't happen,
Okay.
assuming I am doing the race. But yeah, we're gonna go with
I love that we still don't know. We are less than a month out. We have no idea.
it will not be like the Chicago.
Okay, that's good. Lasso42 wants to know, Demolix, where is your wizard hat? And do you think your wizard powers give you an unfair advantage for the MMX race at HDQ?
Well, the wizard hat is
There
on
it
my
is.
head now.
Oh, there it is. If only I
doesn't
screen
really-
capped the webcam better. It's kind of cut off. There it is. There
It
we
doesn't
go.
really sit on the head with the headset on, which is
Okay.
why it's not on. And it doesn't give me unfair advantage because Bob and Hemix is actually the true wizard. So
Oh no.
I'm just kind of a disciple of Bob and Hemix. He's the real one. So
Now, does Bob
We're
have
at-
the current record for Hundo, or?
Hatfield actually has it. Baba's tied with
One more
Caleb.
Everybody's
I'm
got
one
hats.
Dude, I
second.
got all the hats. I don't think I
It
have.
doesn't fit.
Hats
Oh,
don't fit on my head.
I don't
so
quite have a hat. I can dig for a prop though. This is my deflating teddy. I got this. I bought the new Persona 4 Arena game when that came out. It's like a blow up like sock'em. What do you call it? Punch bag.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
Sock 'em
running
ball?
out. Yeah, it's running out of air. So he's kind of, you can kind of even see it on the webcam here. He's running out of air. So there we go. That's the
thought my
closest
head
I don't
actually
have a
being
hat.
the wizard
so-
hat. It's kind of limp. It's not like staying up.
Is that going to make the trip to AGDQ?
Oh, absolutely. I actually
Nice.
asked Caleb if he would wear one. I'm gonna ask Herb if he'll wear one. I will buy them wizard hats.
Everybody's gonna
They
be
will wear
wizard.
them.
There you
We'll
go.
make this happen.
I saw another question here. Duckfist wanted to know. I think we've talked about this a few times, but it's worth bringing up. How do you feel about game participation not being decided until the last minute, considering registration and flight or hotel booking is done much earlier? So we kind of have mentioned a few times where people at this point are pretty much decided on whether or not they're going to HDQ. Right? Most people have got their flight, they've got their hotel. But we still don't know necessarily who's going to be running what games. There's the potential for somebody to be several $100s down now, expecting to do a run, and they show up and find out that, hey, as a matter of fact, you're number 5, and you'll have to sit out. So what do you think about that? I mean, obviously I'm not a huge fan of that, but
Well, the reality of the situation is that you've got so many different instances of races where they're trying to maybe weed out who's the one runner who's going to do it, the 2 runners, 3, the 4 runners. The reality of the situation is it's up to the individual community to decide. I'm part of the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze community, and we decided about 3 weeks ago, we had set a date. We are going to decide right now who is the 1, the 2, the 3 runners who are going to do this. Other communities might be saying, maybe the Super Castlevania 4 runners, maybe all 5 runners are going to go no matter what, so they don't really care. The
Sure.
organizers, as long as they've got 4 people there, they could care less. Now, if you want to take the not the Unreal, but the other side of this, I am still a full supporter for them advertising the either qualifier races, some sort of hype building up to HDQ, us deciding who are going to be the 4 runners, 3 runners, 2 runners. Go ahead.
okay. No, I agree with that. I think that's a good way to resolve it. But let's say, what if the community doesn't organize those? I mean, obviously in the Tropical Freeze community, you guys are pretty active with each other. You're talking to each other. You're making sure that, okay, this is the way we want to do it, and we think this is the fair way to do it. What if you run into the game where that's not the case? The runners aren't, trying to come up with a playoff system or something like that. At what point is it the organizer's responsibility for AGDQ to kind of lay down the hammer and say, this is the person we're going with?
Well, I think it's their job from the start to get in contact with all different communities and say, all right, DKC2, are you guys going to be able to figure this out, or do we need to set something down? Tropical Freeze, are you guys going to be able to do it? Super Castlevania 4, MMX, all these different communities. And it looks like, for the most part, they've been able to decide, all right, you guys can do this, you guys can do that, we can all figure it out. I don't think there needs to be a centralized way that it has to be done, and I also don't think there has to be a date set for when it has to be figured out, unless the community is at odds with the whole situation. To say, all right, we got two people that don't like each other. We're just going to decide ourselves. X date, whoever has the best PB, you're going to do.
I would argue that, I mean, obviously it's ideal if the community can figure it out themselves, but I do think at some point, especially when it's getting close to people having to make a decision, some of us will go to every GDQ regardless of the situation, whether or not we're playing a game. But I do think it is unfair to people to, especially if it's their first GDQ or it's the first time that they have a chance of doing a run. It's kind of unfair to them to withhold that information and not give them a definitive yes or no.
And I definitely think as some sort of improvement for that going forward, if as part of the AGDQ or SGDQ submission form, if it's kind of the same thing like when I'm in theater and I go and I audition for a play, it asks, now if you're not cast, are you willing to help out, do tech for the show, to be the stage manager or something, and you can check yes or no. And I think that would maybe be helpful going forward because again, we've got so many big races this year. We have so many people that are trying to get involved with all these games, especially the more optimized ones, the Super Metroids, the MMXs, the SM64s, all these games, to where you just know there's going to be limited spots. If you're not chosen, are you still going to go? And then you can take each of those one by one. I definitely think it's going to take not as much this year, but in the future, a lot of micromanagement by the GDQ
and I think
crew.
Here's maybe one more kind of curveball in this situation is that it seems to me like most of these situations where we're not sure who the runner is, it's a race. That's the reason. We don't know who our top 4 are going to be. Every other single player race, the person is locked. I can't think of a single example where we're not quite sure for this solo run who it's going to be. I think most of those are, maybe there's one or two, but I feel like most of those are decided at this point. Definitively, this person is going to do the run. So I wonder why races have this exception where you're maybe holding out a little bit longer to figure out who it's going to be. And I don't know that it's fair to maybe potentially boot somebody from the race this close.
Sure. I think for Mike, it's just simply as long as it happens, if Super Castlevania 4, if 3 of the runners can't make it all of a sudden, they can still have one person do Super Castlevania 4. I think he still lets it go. I think it's a little bit of, I don't know if you say laziness, but if they're not going to stress that much, I guess, about 4 versus 5 and just trust that someone's going to figure it out, someone's going to weed themselves out. And if you're really anal about, or not anal, but if you are not, if you don't want to go and you're on the bubble per se for this game, if you're not going to go because of it, then you need to take it more seriously, not in practicing your game, but making it clear that, hey, if I'm not involved, then I'm not going to go.
Well, I think it'll be an interesting situation to see how it's handled. I mean, let's assume like TMR suddenly wakes up and has the best time in Super Castlevania 4. Sure. I think he's one of those. I want to say he's like 5th at the moment, or he's pushing for the top 5. What happens when that? How does it get resolved? What is the choice that gets made? Does he get in because he's improved his time like that, or do we stick with the 4 people who are on the schedule at the moment? So interesting. A question here from Zap. Dom, is it legal to use your wizard powers under SDA guidelines?
Tool assisted.
I wonder if that's if you could interpret that question as, is he allowed to wear the hat during his run? Because I know hats are traditionally banned now, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
I think
that's rough.
Well, I don't know. You're gonna try to wear the wizard hat during your run, right?
I'm gonna try. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, we'll see, right?
If they try to take it from you, you're gonna just refuse?
I'll just glue it to my head. I
there
mean,
you go.
It's my hair. I've got no hair.
There we go. Let's see. From Toddy Toughnuts wants to know, Epic, is this why we can't do the raid on hard mode?
Yes, this is exactly why.
There you go. Darkman wants to know, do I have any hope of winning the MM5 race? Ooh, I don't know if I want to go there. It's rooting against a friend there.
Yeah, I think absolutely all three of the runners are actually very, very good. It's hard to bet against Ohan and Darkman. You know, that's I think what he's getting at by asking the question. But
I
hey, maybe it's going to be a different sleep schedule by then. That's without a doubt. And MM's always early on in the marathon, so that is
right.
an X factor.
I think, well, if you look at the past couple of runs that Ohan's done for Mega Man Relay, especially, is a prime example of he is beatable. He is a human player making human mistakes. And for the longest time, you looked at Ohan runs and you thought, this is a guy that's never going to make a mistake. He's flawless. He plays perfectly every time. He gets world records in marathons. He gets world records in relay races. He gets PBs whenever he feels like it. You know, he turns the stream on and spins the wheel of games that he plays, and 30 minutes later he's got a new PB. But I think if you look at that Mega Man Relay race, not the most recent one, but the one before it, where he was doing 5 and 6, he was dying and making uncharacteristic mistakes. And I think the GDQ setting, especially, it's going to be brand new, and I wonder, you know, can he maintain the pressure? I don't think, or can he withstand the pressure, not maintain it? But yeah, I don't think we're going to know until the actual race happens. You know, we'll see. Maybe once we're 2 or 3 stages in, we'll have an idea if some of the nerves are gone or not. But I'm curious. You know, as soon as you boot up the game and Starman starts, I'm curious who's going to get through it and who's going to make a mistake somewhere.
That image of 3 Starmans going on at
That's right.
once.
That's right.
Great.
All right. I think we've gotten through a lot of questions there, and the chat's still going and kind of answering their own. So good questions today. I felt like we got a lot of good questions there from the chat. You guys get the A+. And now
Good job, Chad.
we're going to reward you with an F-. It's time for the speech. Assuming that. Come on, XSplit. Come on. Hey, 3rd time. Okay.
There it is.
I don't know what it is about this new XSplit, but it's having trouble. All right. Anybody feel compelled to say something, or is it on me?
I will say one I didn't bring up, and it was brought up in chat a little bit, but I do want to continue to hype it up. Because I didn't answer the question, I just realized. The hype race of the marathon that is going to happen once again is the Ninja Gaiden relay. I am looking forward to that being the first time this has ever been done, not just for Ninja Gaiden, but for, you know, opening up the doorway to having Mega Man runs, Mario 64 runs, having, you know, maybe even runs like Golden's brought up, Mario 64, one person does each course. We get, you know, a lot of people involved. It's a ton of fun. It's something that people will have not seen before, and I think it's going to be sexy. I think it's going to be a hit. I think people are going to want more and more of it at GDQs in the future. So, I mean, Demolix, what are the chances that building off this, we're going to see MMX in the future? MMX 123 relay.
Oh my goodness, we will. You know, the X community is only getting bigger, and like you say, relays are really fun if they're executed right, and with everybody in the same place like that, you can execute a relay really well.
Yeah, I picture like I can't even think of a good example, like Nick Arcade almost, or something, or
Yeah.
where it's just it's not so much about this rehearsed, structured format. It's okay, you know, tag your partner, you're in, you know, boot up
It's
the
a little
console.
sloppy. It's
Right.
a little,
It's okay. It doesn't have to have that sense of, you know, ultra professionalism throughout the whole thing. You can do goofy things like a relay race that are not traditional, and I think they can be big hits. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope the reception is good there. Good one to end on there. Any last shout outs you guys want to give? Epic or Demolix, want to give some shout outs here?
Anyone who watches my stream when I do actually stream.
There you go. Be sure to follow Epic and Demolix. By the way, their names are right there on the stream. Demolix, got any shout outs?
Yeah, shout out to the whole MMX community. It's been growing like pretty fast. Every time I turn around, there's a new player. Just for everybody out there that's listening or watching, click on live games and click MMX. There's like 8 to 10 runners all the time now, it seems. All skill levels. Feel free to hop in and ask questions if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, just the community in general.
And of course, the X2 race coming up on the 20th too. We'll talk about that next week for sure as a little preview, but that should probably draw in quite a few people as well. Spike, anything you want to add here?
Dude, I already had my ad.
You had your ad. All right.
It's you know what it is. It is officially for the first time. No, there you go. That's the shout outs right there. It is officially, we are within a month of AGDQ, and you can tell like there's something different in the air. There's this little different energy. Everyone's getting really pumped. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of my best friends that we just found out last night we're gonna get to see Tofu. I haven't seen Tofu in like a year and a half, man. So that's it's exciting, and I look forward to seeing y'all next month.
All right,
man.
well, contain the excitement because we've still got a few episodes before.
Yeah,
we got a few weeks. There's a lot in between. A lot can happen. I'm with you though. It's already getting pretty exciting. So that's it for us. We're gonna be back next Thursday with another show. So I hope you will all join us same time, 8 p.m. Eastern for our next episode. But remember, until then, that your run is not over. Until you hit the final split. We'll see you next week.